Is product photography a genre, or is it just a job? Now, I think it's fair to say I don't know the answer to that question, and actually, does it really matter? Because we can do photography of products as much as we like without it being a genre, even without it being a job. Hell, I should know. Because I suppose conceptually, product photography is a little bit like still life photography, except you're trying to convey a different thing. So I suppose it is still life photography, but you're absolutely concentrating on the one item within the composition, which is not always true, I guess, of kind of traditional still life. But no matter what you think of that kind of element of it, we're doing a little bit of still life product photography over here on the table. And you might ask, what product are you photographying? In fact, if you do ask it like that, I'd question your sanity. Perhaps you need a dose of dried frog tablets. I certainly do. But before I take them, let's talk about the product. Well, actually, you can see the product already, or at least a very small part of it. And yes, it's on the table. I don't expect you to see that. It's that tiny, tiny little microphone, which I'm thankful to Godox for sending over to me. This is the Cube series of microphones. This is the CubeC variant. Now, you won't normally see me do this, but I've put the DJI mic on. I know it's more about the Godox, but the Godox is now being photographed, and I can't demonstrate the qualities of that while it's down there and talk to you up here. So you get a comparison anyway. Not that it's going to be side by side, but do tell me in the comments whether you think you can hear a difference. I can almost guarantee you can't, because you do kind of need these things side by side to understand what the differences are. There's a slight difference, I think, but I haven't run that side by side comparison either, because I don't care. I'll explain that sentiment later. Now, unlike my last tabletop shoot, which is the video likely before this, there'll be a link up in one of these corners. I am being very much more elaborate with it. I've got the overhead light. This is the K&F Concept PLB 60 or PL60B, I think. Again, featured more in that. I'm not going to talk a great deal about it here. That's on an overhead kind of gantry using a convoluted Manfrotto kind of magic arm system and a huge clamp. There's on the table here quite an elaborate setup, and I'm using constant lights throughout, so no flash. I don't have to worry about flash. But one of the things that I get from not using flash, or rather the consequences of not using flash, is I've got to be more purposeful with lights, and I've got to block out more light from the room, because flash is instantaneous and it overpowers pretty much ambient light. Here I've got a lot of ambient light that I need to kind of control. So some darker curtains over here, and all of the curtains over in the turret area are closed, but it's still relatively light in here. But I'm lighting myself with a video light. You can see the shadow from it. That is not affecting me a great deal down here. Yes, there must be some ambient light creeping into it, but I'm kind of dealing with that in here and kind of liking it. Now, you might wonder what a microphone has got to do with photography, apart from the fact that I'm photographing it. Well, of course, every single video you watch involves a microphone of some sort. And it's actually one of the things that I've probably struggled with most over the years. It wasn't so long ago that I was recording directly into this little Zoom handy recorder using a lavalier microphone that I would quite often just secrete under my clothing. So you very rarely ever see a microphone in any of my videos. But it's also important to realise how good the technology has become over the last kind of 5 years or so, because it wasn't that long ago that was a radio mic, or rather specifically, that's not the mic, that's just a transmitter, and there's an equal sized receiver. yeah, I was using these things kind of 4 years ago, and quite unreliable they were too. So in a relatively short space of time, we've miniaturized the receivers, the transmitters, the whole load of stuff, and now it's something that's less than an inch square in this, which is really quite remarkable. And not only that, you're listening to it now. If you saw last week's video, you'll recognize to a degree the kind of overhead use of a constant light over there, and I've got some other lights going on as well. For a brief moment, indulge me, because I want to highlight a couple of things, and I'm not going to go into a massive review of the Godox Cube C, except to say, spoiler alert, that I think it's really, really very good. And I might even actually use it over the DJI mic. I always say DJI, I struggle with DJI. Anyway, I might actually use it more than the DJI mic for a number of reasons. It's slightly more clunky in its use case for me because I don't have the setup that connects directly to the Osmo Pocket. There is a little base that you can get that will connect to the Osmo Pocket 3 that just links directly to it. I'm not using that setup. What I'm using is a USB-C microphone receiver that just plugs into the back of the Osmo. That works an absolute treat, as you can hear, I hope. But one of the key reasons that I will likely just use this is it's so small. I don't have to worry about it, you know. Okay, yeah, it's pulling this relatively flimsy t-shirt around a little bit, but yeah, that's because there's a little bit more weight. I could secrete this more. There's a neck lanyard for this. It's so tiny that it kind of just disappears in clothing, and it sounds really good, and I hope you agree. And it's fair to say that sound is an enormous part of the videos, and if you have really bad sound, you're not likely to listen to a video, because whilst you can turn your head away if you don't like what you're seeing, you can't just turn your head away from sound because physics doesn't work like that. But the important part about a wireless microphone isn't so much about the distance that you can walk away from the camera. I mean, this thing has got a range claimed of 300 meters. Who the hell is going to walk 300 meters away from a camera and continue talking? You wouldn't be able to see them anyway in most cases. But what that range does give you is the ability to kind of walk in through a doorway and things like that. And knowing that the system is still connected is really, really powerful. Knowing you can actually walk away from the camera. That was a really poor example, I know. I didn't even walk. But knowing that you can get away from the camera and still get clear audio is a really important thing. And obviously being reliant on that audio, knowing that it's going to be there, is really important. I walked around the flat in tests, and it's absolutely fine. I can go from one end of the flat to the other, and I'm not pretending that's 100 yards away, but it is through a couple of very, very hefty walls, and it's been absolutely fine. My tabletop setup here is something that I used to do many, many years ago for magazine photo shoots, magazine product shoots. And when I say magazine product shoots, what I mean is I used to run the magazines, and therefore I directed the product shoots and would set them up in a very similar way to this. Way back then we were using flash. I don't have flash gear immediately available to me to do this today, and of course constant lighting, LED lighting, is so much more kind of simple. It's cheap, and I think that's the important thing here. So the lighting here, I've got 3 LED panels providing a little bit of coloured light to it across 3 different surfaces or 3 different areas. I might add a 4th actually. And what that's doing is lighting underneath and spreading a little bit of light up, because I've actually pulled the subject off of the table, off of the background layer of the table, by placing it on a small sheet of glass, and this is a sheet of glass just out of an A4 photo frame. I'm shooting at an angle. I'm trying to at the very least minimize any shadows that are being produced. There's hardly any reflections because of the way that the lighting and such is hitting it and the angle of approach from the camera. And I'm also really close. So I'm using my 45mm f1.8 lens here, and the distance between subject and lens is probably about its minimum. I'm not sure what its minimum focusing distance is, but I can't be more than 2 foot away from this. Of course, the working distance is in itself quite tight because I've only got an A4 sheet of paper size to play with. So I've got to be very, very careful not to catch the edges of that glass. And that's precisely why I'm using the geared head here. I've got pinpoint accuracy. I can just twiddle a knob and make sure that that glass doesn't come into view. And it is really just outside of frame. One of the things that gets me about a lot of mic reviews on YouTube is that they're talking about the brightness of the audio and everything else, and then comparing one mic with another. You'll see plenty of videos that do that, comparing say this mic with a DJI equivalent or a Hollywell equivalent, and it's like, well, you know what? The vast majority of people really don't care, because unless they hear one and then the other, and then back to one and then to the other, and back to one and then to the other, and all that time, it makes no damned difference. And I can say that as someone that used to spend a lot of money on hi-fi equipment. I used to believe that I could tell the difference between different turntables and tone arms and cartridges and styluses and God knows what else, and amplifiers. And I'm not sure I could. I mean, sure, you could tell the difference between a shit one and a great one, but yeah, anyone could do that. But these days, I've got a ringing in my ears. It's constant. All I'm interested in is, does it sound shit or does it sound good? And that sounds good. Does it sound different from the DJI mic? Maybe, I don't care. It really makes no odds whatsoever. The fact that it's close to the audio source, there to here, and it's picking up decent audio without a massive amount of background noise. Not that there's a lot of background noise here. There's someone outside somewhere playing a radio, probably some workmen, and there's some sparrows cheeping. I don't know whether you can hear those. Can you hear that? If you can, there's some noise cancellation, which I can turn on by pressing the one button on this. Has anything changed? It's still cheeping. Noise cancelling is still on, little orange light there. I'll probably leave it on throughout, and yeah, if you notice a difference, great. There's actually a couple of different levels of noise cancelling which you can control in an app. Now, the great thing about USB-C is that it's a standard that has become really widely adopted, and thank God for that, because USB-C just works. I plug the USB-C dongle in the back of the Osmo Pocket, it just works. I plug it into my phone, it just works. I plug it into the computer, you get the point. But you don't have to use USB-C. You've also got this little transmitter, which has got a 3.5mm jack plug out, which is a TTRS standard audio cable, which you can connect if you want to the input on your computer, but obviously it's more designed for connecting directly into cameras. And on the back you've got a little spring clip, which is conveniently sized exactly the right size to fit on the hot shoe of your camera as well. So it simply mounts up the top, little curly cable straight into the mic input on your camera, and you've got a system that you can use both with a camera which isn't USB-C in most cases. In actual fact, I'm not sure any of them accept USB-C mics. Correct me if I'm wrong. But camera system, or indeed, if I really wanted to, could connect it to the handy recorder or anything like that, and lots of possibilities. And you can see there's two lights on here, so there's actually two mics, so you can record a conversation, mic up two different people, and there's even a USB-C connection on that. So you can USB-C this to your computer, you can USB-C this to your Osmo Pocket 3. What we've really got here is an incredibly flexible little system for wireless mics. Two wireless mics, two transmitter options, and also there's even a USB-C pass-through on this dongle, so you can continue to charge whatever it is you're using whilst you've got that plugged in. I accidentally clicked the on-off for the noise cancellation there. Did you hear a difference? Probably not, because there's not a lot of noise around. But there we go. That's me farting about. Look, let's put this on here. There we go. How weird does that look? It's a really handy little thing. And you know what? It's not stupidly expensive. The position of the lights is really important, because what I'm trying to ensure is that I don't get reflections, but also I'm not getting shadows, because I don't want the image to look like it's obviously raised off the bottom. You can see how elaborate the setup is. All of the panel lights are providing just that nice little bit of colour that just creates a bit of interest in the background. And I've got an Adaptalux spotlight lighting up the casing, providing a bit of casing there, taking that shadow down, a little bit of highlight, absolutely kind of pinpoint accuracy with that. And it's absolutely perfect for this kind of product photography, where you are getting in close and you're working with LEDs, because of course when we're working with LED lights in this kind of environment, small things and inexpensive, I've got to say that the majority of these lights are no more than kind of £40 each, with the exception to the Adaptalux macro system, which are quite a bit more, but worth every penny. This is actually quite an affordable kind of setup. Yes, the light up here will set you back £100 or so. You could probably do it without the Adaptalux kit and just be a bit more careful with light positioning. It's just kind of trial and error. But if you can afford the Adaptalux, it's an absolute godsend for work like this, or any macro work. You've seen me use it quite a bit in the past. Elaborate though this is just using really simple bits of kit that are kind of laying around. A piece of glass from an A4 photo frame, for instance. It's propped up on film canisters. They're the perfect kind of height for this kind of work. I hope the tabletop setup behind me has given you some ideas for how you might be able to get some kind of product images yourself, whether it's something like this, or actually if it's much bigger, you're going to need a bigger photo frame to take the glass out of. But the point remains that it's an idea that you can kind of employ with a few lights. Just raise the subject off of the surface a little bit and get some light kind of going underneath it. It does, in fairness, work better if you have a textured surface underneath it, so that the lights coming in different directions can catch different parts of the surfaces. Many years ago, I'd use a kind of checkerboard walkway pattern, a bit of stainless steel that would catch the light at certain areas, and we'd use snoots on the flash heads to really get a big kind of beam of light going in there. That's a lot more difficult with a panel light. It's not impossible, you can kind of fashion things up, but a whole lot easier with a manufactured product that fits your light. But all kinds of ideas, get some creative juices going up here, and find something laying around the house, or indeed if you've got a small microphone, great. I mean, even again, if you've got something like that, something slightly multifaceted that you can get some interest in. And there's so many possibilities with just a couple of lights, a bit of glass, and some suspension off the table. Oh, and you might have noticed that it's grown hair. Really nice little wind muff for it. It's a really fun thing, and actually the the box is supplied with a bunch of stickers, so you can personalise the little blighter if you fancy as well. Not sure I'd do that. Anyway, thank you very much to Godox for sending this. I'm sure I'm going to be using this rather more in the future now that I know it works with the Osmo Pocket 3. That's really important to me. If you only ever need it to work with the Osmo Pocket 3, then you can buy the Cube 3, I think it's called, that simply is designed to work with the Pocket 3, and it's got a dongle that works, that clips onto the bottom of the Pocket 3 as part of a native system. Beyond that, hey, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've got some inspiration for a little bit of home photography. And you can check out these videos here for more photo inspiration. Don't forget to click the like button. Take care.